Hello and welcome everybody to the VooPlayer Weekly Q&A webinar session. We're going to get started here in just one moment, but before we do, if somebody can confirm that both audio and video connections are okay, and then we can get started. Thank you very much. We got a confirmation from Dean. Thank you, William. Good. All right, excellent. Pleased to hear that everything is in order. Once again, this is the VooPlayer Q&A weekly webinar session, where, as the name itself indicates, we answer any questions that you as users may have, also provide training on any advanced features or use cases of video in your business, as well as showcase new stuff that we've been working on, and most importantly, collect, discuss, organize, prioritize and roadmap any ideas, suggestions, constructive criticism, or any other form of feedback that you may have that will help us drive more value through VooPlayer in the future so that we can improve it. So the format of the webinar is pretty straightforward. So at any time that you have a question, you may enter it in the chat box that you have over here on the right-hand side of the webinar, and then we can start answering them in the order that they come in. So if you came prepared with any questions, now would be a good time to enter them in the chat box so they're the first ones to be answered. As mentioned, this is the weekly webinar calls, and the replays are available both on our YouTube channel, link to which I just pasted in the chat box, as well as on our Facebook group, link to which is in the chat box as well. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel or joined that group, we do encourage you to do so, as that will help you keep you updated with all of the latest regarding VooPlayer. Additionally, one more resource that I would like to share is our knowledge base. So if you're just getting started with VooPlayer, docs.vooplayer.com is an excellent place to do so, as there is a getting started section in the documentation which helps describe how to create your first video or upload your first video or link to it and then add features to it and publish it on the platform, as well as additional resources to further training material are available in that getting started section. So it's a great place to get started. One more thing that I would like to mention. So if anytime you have an idea or a request that you would like to share with us, you may click over here on documentation and support in the bottom left of your application and click on submit and vote on ideas. There you can see all of the latest stuff that we are working on, stuff that we're considering working on or doing or implementing, such as integration requests. And all of these are submitted by your fellow VooPlayer users, and then we post them on here, and then other users can vote on them. And in doing so, that helps us generate momentum and validate the ideas for implementation. You may also see stuff that we've been recently launching, as most importantly, you can click over here in the top right corner on submit a new idea, and there you can indicate your request or feedback and let us know how important it is to you, so that we can act upon that priority. What else did I want to mention here? I forgot something, didn't I? Oh yeah, we are also available through our live chat widget in the application, as you may know. And additionally, if you want to contact us at any time, you may actually submit a full issue report by clicking on contact support and selecting detailed report, and then you can kind of go through the guided process of whatever it is that you are interested in. All right, cool. So let's turn to question. Hello to Rick. Hello to Clark Cotton. We have a question from Clark. Describe the compliments the player gives to any OTT, AVOD, SVOD, and TVOD. Also provide unique use cases for personal content creators versus fans or retail users. So I'm not sure how to answer that question, since out of all those acronyms, I think TVOD probably stands for TV on demand, and I'm not sure what any other, probably video on demand and audio video on demand, something like that. So describe the compliments the player gives. So the player itself, WooPlayer, is not a on-demand solution in that it provides no mechanisms or facilities for executing payments or providing access to videos aside from basic restrictions that you can put on the video, such as where they can be played, security regarding that video, as well as sort of basic password protections around that video. So WooPlayer in itself is simply a video player. It's not an on-demand platform in a sense that you can't manage user access to the videos. So WooPlayer has always, as I mentioned, been, which is not to say that have not considered access solutions that would allow for that sort of interaction between the content creators and subscribers to that content, but at this time, WooPlayer does not offer any such features where you can manage access and where people can subscribe to content, and that content can be delivered to them via any sort of a channel form or even a subscription form where they would get notifications of new content and so on. So WooPlayer remains only a video player. So if you are aware of any platforms that provide on-demand services such as that, or membership platforms such as that, in which you can embed WooPlayer and use it, we would be really pleased to learn of such solutions so that we can recommend it to other WooPlayer users as well. Because as I mentioned, that's just not something that we're offering. But as I mentioned, it's not something that we haven't considered. So here under consideration, we have the video access code management, and I think this idea that we started validating and it did start getting some momentum comes closest to what you're describing, in that here you would be able, or subscribers could automatically subscribe to content and pay for that access, and then you can manage their access, and that access can expire, or it can be limited to a particular set of channels or groupings of videos in any natural sense. So that's something that we've considered, but as I mentioned, it did started getting momentum, but then it just kind of tapered off. So it is available for everybody here in the product board, so that they can contribute their use cases. So we rarely come out of here, come out of WooPlayer and say, hey, this is how you should use WooPlayer. We're really eager to learn about the ways in which you guys intend to use video in your business, and based on that, adapt WooPlayer. So WooPlayer is in no way sort of a predeterministic solution which offers management of accesses and or any other use cases that are not already implemented and facilitated. So if you have use cases in which you would like to incorporate WooPlayer, we're more than eager to learn about them. So, and then that's why it's sometimes difficult to answer these types of questions, such as describe the complements in which WooPlayer facilitates TV on demand and provide unique use cases for creators and fans. I feel it's not really our place to describe use cases for you guys. I think it's up to you guys to say, hey, we have a use case in which we have a video component, and how can we facilitate integration of WooPlayer in that use case is something that we'll gladly always address. Clark Cotton is also saying transactional video on demand, so probably with a payment component. TV on demand, you can buy the content for or rent it for, so it's a complete complement of any platform. Yes, we're building it now. We'll let you know, and we agree. Add 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 9x Media Limited will be a natural baton pass from vPlayer to the OTT world. Yeah, that'll be really interesting to see. As I mentioned, we will remain open to discussing any use cases. So, if at any time you want to share any work in progress with us and see if we perhaps have any additional recommendations to how vPlayer, and that is a conversation worthwhile having with every vPlayer user, I think, about learning the particulars of the use case. And I mean, sometimes people say, "Hey, I have a use case of posting a video on my landing page," and that's not really a use case, because without understanding the entire funnel and the customer relationship model behind that funnel and the intentions for further engagement with that particular viewer, without understanding the entire, and sometimes the content creators don't have a full grasp on that either. But as I mentioned, we're always gladly exploring in-depth use cases, not only focused on the video component, but as the video component is usually a subset of a much larger ecosystem that the viewer is engaging with and interacting with, and the data is being passed with and collected on and further marketed and sold on. So the more such use cases that we understand, and the deeper that we're able to understand them, the deeper we're able to provide recommendations on how vPlayer, because sometimes people are like, hey, we have a landing page, we want to get a video on that page, and then we don't know what happens from there onwards. But there are many vPlayer features which would be able to complement the next steps. For example, hey, you can add a link in your video, and then you can use the data from a vPlayer to connect the dots that are missing on the next page. So you can say, hey, this person watched this much of the video, and you can know that if you've activated whatever X feature in vPlayer, or you can customize the content that you're showing in the video. And we have some people doing some really amazing stuff with vPlayer, especially in that CRM and personalization world, where you have people who have built custom scenes around the text that they can populate with personalization tags. And there's been some really amazing use cases that we've seen come out of the features that vPlayer offers. And I think those have primarily been developed in communication between the content creators and vPlayer, with an understanding of the audience base and how they're interacting with the content. So the more that we're able to learn about how you use video is always going to result in more than we're able to do and provide value on. Clark is saying ad media will be a Netflix and Spotify in a box. So all content can be properly set up in vPlayer, and then hybridization into our platform. It's beautiful. So you're going to have content set up in vPlayer. So assuming so people upload videos and audio inside of vPlayer, and then somehow that gets passed into your platform, and people can buy subscriptions to that platform. It sounds great. It's just missing what's maybe missing from those use cases is, all right, so what happens when somebody uploads a video in WooPlayer? How does that get added to your platform? So is that leveraging one of our APIs, or is that a manual process? How can that improve? Because it's not always that we are looking to optimize the viewing experience. We also want to figure out how we can uh, improve and contribute to your workflows and the understanding of your workflows. So just knowing how you work, how you create a video, how you or hire a video, how you produce it in production, how you prepare it for the online world and the interaction elements around it. How do you plan out the interaction elements? How do you add the interaction elements? How do you upload the actual video? How do you get it to your platform? All of those are things that we're really interested in hearing. And I think we should start focusing on some similar or more, I don't want to say general, but I think we need to start developing some sort of case studies around how people are leveraging WooPlayer. So if anybody's interested in participating in that, and of course we would gladly in some reasonable way from WooPlayer, I don't know, by upgrading your account or by allocating additional resources to it, or any other way in which we can say thank you. If anybody's willing to participate in those case studies, provided that you have a sufficiently interesting use case for them, we would be more than willing to collaborate. So don't hesitate to reach out to us via our support channels, and then we can establish if your use cases are can be explored in the case study format. Clark is saying we will discuss the storage we provide. We will discuss the storage we provide offline discussion, but very cool partnership. Cool. Pleased to hear that WooPlayer is facilitating something like that. As mentioned, and I don't know if you're building your own platform, what strikes me as odd is asking about how WooPlayer complements the. All right, maybe I misunderstood your question. Maybe what you were asking is, what can WooPlayer do? What's all available in WooPlayer that can complement platforms such as yours? So that's an interesting question. So there is a lot that WooPlayer has in store. I'm sure that you're aware of that, but a few things that I would definitely turn to is namely our JavaScript API, which is available at, let me just dig out a reference to that. So that's docs/API. And you've probably integrated some of this in your platform already, because I imagine you would need it. But there are specific methods and events which are available from the Vue API, which is nested in that little WooPlayer.js Back on now. Testing. All right, cool. So as I was mentioning, I don't know where the sound cut off. I think I messed with my cable in some way that I didn't intend to. But basically, main thing that comes as a complement to a platform where Voo Player can be hosted inside of a membership or an on-demand platform, I think are really these events and methods which can be used to, for example, set an on-ended event so you can listen when a video has ended, and then based on that you can offer an additional video, or you can listen for remaining time. So you can say 10 seconds before a video ends, show a pop-up of some kind, or you can take actions based on those events, such as, hey, when something happens on a page where user is interacting. So for example, if a user whatever scrolls past the video, you can pause it, or or you can have them. There's a lot of different interactions, and based on what you envision as further interactions in your platform, such as, hey, I want to have a scrollable list of videos over here, and when somebody scrolls, I want to have the video pause or whatever, or change the video, or change the video preview, or get information about the video so that I can dynamically get the information about the video duration, titles, thumbnails, sprite sheets, and so on from my Voo Player account based on specific search criteria. All of that stuff is available through this API, and I think that's the biggest compliment that there is to a platform such as an on-demand platform or something similar to Netflix. We found Voo Player to be completely unique and necessary in every use case, enterprise only. All right. Sounds back. Yes, on about 1 minute ago. We'll send custom client requirements and send build requirements to your team. Yeah, we'll definitely love to go over those and learn more about your business and how video and Voo Player fit in it. That would be really awesome. I would love to be able to review something like that for every customer. As I mentioned, that's an really worthwhile exploratory effort into understanding how Voo Player fits in an entire ecosystem. I mean, we completely understand that we are a very minute piece of the puzzle in which your business operates, where we don't think, hey, this guy just got Voo Player and that's gonna, his entire world is gonna revolve around Voo Player and creating content for Voo Player and creating a business on Voo Player and so on. We understand that we play a very minute role, but what we would like to understand much better is everything else that happens around that. So as I mentioned, if you really want to help us improve, just let us know and share with us your stories about integrating Voo Player in your business, and that will really help us improve it in the future. As I mentioned, we did have an opportunity to dive deep into a few of our users' use cases, and out of that came some really amazing stuff, and that resulted in new Voo Player features. So we're always welcoming such information and communications. Clark is also saying it's minute, but it's major, and any patent would be defendable in these use cases. Cool. Yeah, definitely understand that. All right, cool. Does anybody else have any questions? Did anybody else come with any points of topics for discussion? We might be running low on time here to cover someone's use case, but since the webinar crowd is pretty regular, if anybody wants to come up with their use case, describe their use case in advance for the next webinar so that we can sit and go through it in attendance with everybody else on the webinar and explore everything that WooPlayer can do in that particular use case so that other people can learn from that as well. That's more than welcome. William is saying my login button is grayed out, on, off, unable to access account lately. Also, I replied to your message. Black Friday deals, WooPlayer is awesome is bottom line. All right, so William, first, my login button is grayed out, on, off, unable. So we're assuming that we're talking about this button here. So the only reason why this button can be grayed out, so you need two valid things. You need an email and a password. So as soon as you have an email, so this is all I need. So A at C and any value in the password for this to be unlocked. So at any time do you have something weird going on around here, so A at .d, that's going to be recognized as a non-valid input. And if you focus out of this, so if you have any value in the password, that's going to be okay. So, but if you're entering whatever you're entering here, and so for example, if I had something like this, then try clicking outside of it, and that'll give you if there's a validation error message on that input, which will be really weird if you've successfully logged in before. But there's no other reason for which this login button should be grayed out unless one of these two fields and password field usually can have no value. But sometimes, for example, I've run into scenarios before where, for example, there's that Chrome autofiller of forms, and there's some extensions such as I have. For example, I have what's this called? I think LastPass, where you can sort of have pre-filled values in the content. Make sure that one of those plugins or Chrome's native extension is not just making it look like there's values in those fields. Sometimes there might actually not be values, so it might be worthwhile also clicking on those fields and then typing them out rather than relying on pre-filled values. We'll definitely look into that as well as something that might be causing an issue. But as again, just to reiterate, the only reason this can be disabled is if one of these two fields is invalid. Either in the password's case, there's no value, or in email's case, invalid format of an email. So definitely look into that. William, Rick is saying, are there any Black Friday deals? There might be something cooking up that we're not able to discuss yet, but we'll definitely keep everybody informed of. Clark is saying WooPlayer is awesomeness. William is saying that could be the issue with 1Password. 1Password, assuming that that's also an extension. Yeah, try this. Try logging into your account through an incognito window where you have an extension is disabled. Try giving that a go. I'm 99% sure that it's something like that. If you haven't changed your email address, and that's worked before. All right, cool. We're running short on time, so unless there are any further questions, I want to thank everybody who joined this week, and hopefully will consider contributing those use cases that we've discussed so that we can also review them with other people on the webinar, maybe without exposing any personal data, but we'll gladly just theoretically like to, such as we just did with Clark, without seeing his platform or any of his videos, we were able to discuss how WooPlayer can complement those solutions. So if anybody is willing to contribute those for the next webinar, we'll be really thankful. So once again, thanks for joining this week, and hopefully we'll see you next week. And thank you for continuing to improve WooPlayer. Bye.